of ye beautiful nerds from around the world, and welcome to another community stream here on the Den of Nerds Live. Tonight we got to talk about Cowboy Dave. If you watched the stream earlier today, it's just, can we talk about Dave? That's what's going on. If we could just talk about Dave, that would be great. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about our boy Dave. We're going to talk about whether or not we think that Dave Filoni should take over Star Wars. Maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. But there's still plenty of stuff to talk about when it comes to Dave Filoni and Star Wars. That is going to be pretty exciting. I have the link in the chat, folks. If you would like to join the chat via StreamYard, I will drop that into the chat one more time. And you can come on in. If you don't want to come on in, don't worry about it. No big deal. We will just see what you got to say in the chat, okay? So, to talk about Dave Filoni, first let us bring in Trev. Trev, what's going on?
Yo, dude. Not much.
Can you hear me okay?
How's it going there? Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you okay.
Good. Beautiful. We'll do this. We'll click this button so we go into the wide views. Oh, well, I guess you're on your phone, so you don't get a wide view, but that's all right.
No, I'm on my phone today, yeah.
Cool. So give me your baseline thoughts, man, about Cowboy Dave. I actually don't know where you stand on this.
I think Dave has. I think he's the most faithful storyteller that Lucasfilm has to what George Lucas was doing.
Right.
I think he's like, because just Clone Wars is kind of carrying it on. Like, he was obviously working very closely together with George on the first few seasons of Clone Wars, or maybe the whole 6 seasons. I don't know how much George Lucas was involved after season 3 or season 4, but he's obviously the most faithful to that style of storytelling, I would say. And he's done some great things. He's done some not great things, I wouldn't say not great things, but just like he's got like, there's mediocre, and then he's shot really high.
Yeah.
And he's been mediocre, not terrible, but like, I would say, like, let's say his best things are 10 out of 10. His worst things are like 4 or 5 out of 10, and he generally averages kind of maybe like 7.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff he does. So he's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, obviously I definitely agree that he's the most faithful to George. Just have I ever told you the story that he told us when he came back to school, and like what it was like to like meet George for the first time and all that?
Maybe, but if I maybe refresh me.
Yeah, I'll do a little.
Exactly,
yeah, I'll do a little refresher just for everybody that's in the chat, because I love this story. I think it's so cool, man. So first off, Dave is a pretty good artist, but not a great artist. He was animating the show King of the Hill. You know the show?
Good show too.
Yeah, it's a good show, but like, not exactly the best type of animation and all that, right? So when he first, like, that was like his first like big gig, was sort of working on that. Then he was a director, and he was involved with The Last Airbender, the animated show. And so he gets a call, and basically he gets this call that that George Lucas wants to meet with him, right? And Dave is like the biggest Star Wars fan you can imagine. And so he goes into it sort of thinking, well, I'm not going to get this job, because he doesn't really think that he's qualified. He just doesn't think he's got the pedigree for it. But it'll just be worth it for the story, right? It'll just be awesome to have met George Lucas.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, right? And so he goes in, and he's got this portfolio, and he says they like bring him in, and obviously Skywalker Ranch is all crazy and stuff, and then they bring him into George's office, and he slides across the desk like his portfolio, which has like the best of the best stuff, like all of his awesome stuff, and George kind of flips through it in like less than 30 seconds, and then just kind of sets it aside, right? And Dave is like, he's like, okay, well, that's about what I expected, right? And so then George proceeds to not even talk about the job, but to talk about what Jedi Knights are like, and just starts talking about Star Wars. Like, he's not doing an interview. he's just talking about Star Wars. And Dave said all he could do was basically just smile, like with the biggest. I mean, you've seen the Dave Filoni kind of childish like smile, where he's just got that like ear to ear kind of grin. And he's
Usually
just,
when he's hiding something, right? Usually
yeah,
when he's trying to keep a
exactly.
secret or something.
When he's very satisfied that he has something he's not going to tell the fans, yeah, that's usually that grin, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's just got that like massive grin on his face or whatever, and he just kind of lets George go and asks a few questions here and there, and they chat about stuff, and then George says goodbye, and he picks up like his thing, and he's walking out, right, and then he's walking out, and he's with the receptionist in the like waiting room or whatever, I guess. And he's just thinking to himself, he's like, dude, this is literally like the coolest experience of my life. Like, I can't wait to tell everybody about this. Like, I met George Lucas. And while he's in the lobby, George calls the receptionist, and then the receptionist says, oh, hey, he liked you. You've got the job. And that was literally it. Like, that's how it happened. And basically, like, the way it went down was that he got the job because he just listened to George like blabber about Star Wars, and then at that point, like obviously, he sort of takes Dave under his wing and teaches him, from the master, straight from the master. He gets the lessons of Star Wars, and so I definitely agree with you that he's gotten it from the creator. But do you think that he'd have, and we'll bring Dan in on this conversation too, but do you think he's got what it takes to do the big job? What do you think about that question? You go, and I'll bring in Dan too.
I think he's got what it takes to do like a movie, or like let's say do a big, like a Star Wars trilogy. Is that maybe what you're saying? Like do like a big Star Wars trilogy. I think he's got what it takes, but like you said, he's learning more of the live action kind of things under Favreau. It's only helping him.
Right.
Like it's not taking away from anything. He's got some ideas on how to do things, but like even like in Rebels and in Clone Wars, there's been lagging parts, right? Like there's like the filler episodes that they're not filler, but they're you know what I mean? Like they're not great, right? So and he's part of that. Like he's part of those. Like Space Whales. Well, saying that Space Whales came back at the season finale, they all kind of tied in.
Kind of weird, yeah.
The episodes themselves weren't fantastic, right?
Right.
That featured them in the first place, right? So, like I think he can do it. It's just he's got to tighten up his storytelling a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Tighten it up a little bit, but it is faithful to George. Don't get me wrong, but it's got to be tighter for that.
Dan, what's your thoughts on my man Dave here?
All right, your guy. He's everybody's guy,
People love him.
Filoni. Where's my cowboy?
Cowboy Dave. Yeah, you should have had your cowboy hat, Trev.
So my answer may shock you, but I'm gonna have to go with a solid no, and only because the filler episodes and whatnot. But I think Dave Filoni would be best served as like what's the person, like someone he can help with it where it could go, but I think that type of task should go in the hands of Sam Witwer. I want to see what he can do.
Oh, wow. So that's really interesting. So I like that. I like where your head's at, because I think Sam is another one of those guys that just knows Star Wars in his bones. You know what I mean? But also a guy that has a lot of respect for Dave. You know what I mean? And like really, really kind of respects Dave. Let's talk about so by the way, I totally respect your opinion on that. I think that it's a couple of different questions, right? Because I know that the big hang up with him actually taking over Star Wars in an official capacity would be, well, he doesn't necessarily have the business chops for that, right? So let's adjust the goalpost a little bit. I think what Trev said was interesting, because you kind of implied that you think he could actually get like a trilogy or do some like live action big thing like that, right?
I think he's more than capable of doing it. Okay. I think he's not quite there yet. Like he probably, like once maybe Mandalorian's done, I can see maybe 5 to 6, 7 years, maybe he can start developing a trilogy of his own kind of thing. Like once he's got, like all the Mandalorians, he'll probably help with the Mandalorian all the way through, I imagine.
Yeah,
probably. And this Ahsoka live action series, he's probably like I can't see anybody else show running it.
Yeah, they'd have to have him on as a producer at the very least, and he would be heavily involved with that for sure.
Yeah, and so he's probably and he's because if they're gonna do an Ahsoka series, like I said, then like you said, he's gonna be. He doesn't let anyone really touch her unless he's involved, right? Because that's his whole MO with Ahsoka, right? So if they're gonna do an Ahsoka series, that's probably his. If that's somewhat good, not if it's on Disney Plus, I don't know if Disney's been releasing numbers the way Netflix doesn't really release numbers either, but
yeah,
I don't know how successful it'll be, but I imagine it's a Star Wars. It'll probably be successful. So.
Well, a lot of people in the chat, and I think this is sort of the thought process of a lot of different people, are saying like, what if he is somehow a creative lead, like some
Chief creative officer?
Yeah, some position that's created to sort of make him in charge of creative of Star Wars. What do you think about him doing that job?
He probably already is doing that. Like, there's I'm not even joking. He probably has a timeline set up for stuff we haven't seen yet. Like stuff that hasn't been released, like for example, the Solo movie. Like he probably has a timeline all set up for that he's adjusting on the fly, and that because Favreau's probably referring to him and Pablo Hidalgo and the whatever the storytelling group is. But I'm telling you, he probably has a whole timeline set up for how everything is already going that just we as the public don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of how he's probably chipping in here and there, telling people, well, this is what it's going to be here. This is what it's going to be here. Yeah, do that. Leave it a little wide open.
Yeah.
We'll come in and do some of this stuff later in another series.
Yeah, for sure.
He's probably I have a feeling that's what he's probably doing that already. But just without the title. Cool. But go ahead.
So what do you think, Dan? You think he's already doing that? And if he's not, you think he should be?
I'd be surprised if he wasn't, that's kind of why we're getting the Clone Wars already now, right? Like that we're getting demand,
I would say
Go ahead.
I would just say that I think my understanding of it is that he is in an official capacity under Kathy, and he's like one of, I think the last time I checked is he's one of 5 under her that's like big wigs at Lucasfilm.
His only boss is Kathy.
Correct. But I think that that he's not in an official capacity, a big wig, he's not actual creative development or anything like that. And that position, to my knowledge, doesn't really exist. There is Michelle Rejwan, who is the vice president of live action development, and then there's
she was a JJ hire. She's a JJ
person. Yeah, she's a JJ person. And so I don't think he has necessarily an official capacity. He has obviously risen the ranks, and Kathy has spoken about him often, saying that she's one of the people he is one of the people that she goes to regularly for this type of stuff. But I think that just in general, it's a smart PR move to create some kind of position or to do something to sort of give him that kind of that position. Just from the PR perspective, I feel like it would be a really good look. He's got the love of the people, you know what I mean? He's got the love of the fans, where she kind of does not.
Right.
And he's and he speaks well. He speaks well. He talks generally, and he keeps secrets very well. He just
knows the Star Wars fans really well. He knows how to play them, play the room. Yeah. What were we gonna say?
Wait, Dan? So I have 3 questions.
Hit me with hit me.
Okay, so but 2 and 3 are entirely dependent on how you answer 1. Okay. So, do you have any juice in is someone leaking Star Wars information to you? Do you have any juice by chance?
I mean, I've got a little bit of juice, but right now a lot of things are in flux.
Okay.
So I mean, frankly, so I've got a pretty good relationship with a couple of scoopers, Jason including,
right.
yeah, and a couple other people like that. And actually, Jeremy Conrad scoops Star Wars pretty well, and I'm sort of close with those guys. But I also have some other sources. Now, what's weird about the sources is, like, sometimes they're super solid, and sometimes like they're not. And the deal is, and what
Right,
I've sort of come to understand is, like, it's not just about sources, it's about like your judgment on something. So like sometimes I'll hear something and I'll just be like, well, I can't really talk about that until I hear it from someone else. You know what I mean? Um,
right, right.
so yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I got a little bit of juice.
Well, is there any juice on Mara Jade and Gal America being involved in the future Star Wars in canon?
No juice like that. Nothing like that super specific. I will say that I was
Okay.
intrigued by the idea of the female centric Star Wars show. Like at first, I tried to interpret it in a way where I was like, dude, what if they did a Mara Jade show and they just did like the
I heard
Legends?
that a lot online. That a lot of people were thinking that it might be a
Yeah,
Mara
yeah,
Jade show
but
when it was first.
there's no evidence.
Yeah.
There's no evidence to really support that. I will say this though, I named one of my characters in my fan fiction after Mara Jade, the female lead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's a
Oh.
little Twi'lek hottie. And her name's Mara. Yeah.
Let's see some
Mara
fanboys.
wasn't a Twi'lek.
No, she was not. No, she was not. But I just
She
really
was
like little
human.
Twi'lek hotties, so I threw her in there.
And what does Sam Witwer mean when he said the Clone Wars ending will blow our minds? What is
Well, okay, so I think that we're sort of already seeing it, and this kind of goes into some like one of the reasons that I really, really just like I stand Dave really hard, right? Like I'm a really, really big supporter of his, and like one of the things is, it's not just that he's giving us an amazing Clone Wars season, it's that
Yeah.
he's given it to us in a way that complements the films. Like that is such an
Good.
that's such an impossible, like really hard thing to accomplish, because on the one hand you could just go away and do some super dope shit with Ahsoka and it would be awesome. You'd be like, oh my god, like this is dope. But the fact that like it's the little things, man. Like it's the conversations that she's having with Obi-Wan. It's the fact that Obi-Wan tells everybody to go away and drop some knowledge about Anakin one-on-one with Ahsoka. It's the fact that Ahsoka gets up to defend his honor. And like all of this stuff, as a Star Wars fan, you're processing all this stuff and you're like, oh my God, because it's recontextualizing and it's actually enhancing the experience of the prequels, not creating a unique experience that's good on its own, right? So like it's a
Okay, yeah,
tapestry thing. This is one of the magical things of Star Wars is that they're cool adventure movies, but they constantly get you as a watcher, a reader, or whatever to be like, that's really fucking cool over there. What's that? You know what I mean? Like that's the Boba
right.
Fett effect. Is we're like, that dude's fucking sweet.
Oh,
Did he
yeah.
just tell Vader that he's no good to me dead? Who's this fucking guy? You know what I mean? Like it's little things like that that create a uniquely Star Wars experience, and I think Dave just gets it. You know what I mean? Um, and I think that some other people maybe don't. I would love to know. What I'd really love to know is I would really want to know what Dave's thoughts of the Last Jedi are. You know what I mean? And he's such a team player that he'll probably never really, you know, spill
Well,
that tea.
there was that whole thing that was released, like what was it, 2 weeks ago, where there's that book where there's that quote from Dave that all like a lot of the like Ryan like RK Outpost was showing it and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, and I know whatever's whatever, but like he was showing like the quote from Dave Filoni about how he was a big he's a big push and actually how the sequel trilogy wanted to play out with Leia being a major part of it and everything else, and right, like he was a major part of that, right? So
Yeah,
like, so I've his thoughts on the sequel trilogy. I think he probably had more of a hand in it than we
than we
are aware of.
anticipate, right? But here's the
Yeah,
thing,
he
like
may. Go
Ryan,
ahead.
like, well, the thing that's really weird is like it feels very. Look, man, I think we all know that Ryan literally did some things in that second movie that were, for all intents and purposes, just total left turns upon where the
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
story was going, and I feel like, frankly, just any base level storyteller, especially when you're working with this tapestry, would have probably been like, I don't know about that. You
But
know what I
again, but
mean?
also remember, everything before the movie, we were told it was the cleanest production Star Wars had ever had,
Yeah.
or like they had no arguments. That means that all the production team was kind of like okay with what Ryan was doing. So you gotta like that includes Dave. That includes Dave.
Well,
That includes like unless something comes out way later. We'll say, go ahead.
Well, if you watch the documentary, there are several moments where Ryan actually talks about how he had to fight for things in the film. So even though the production was really smooth and there was shit like that, like the one that really sticks out to me is the mom joke at the beginning. Like he literally says, like, I had to fight hard for this in here. And there's some moment, and I'm like thinking to myself, fucking why, dude? That's a horrible hill to die on, you know? But there are a couple other moments in the doc where he says stuff like, it's like, and literally, dude, you should watch it again because it's like really interesting when you consider some of these things. But he says like, it's like playing a poker game with some of the best poker players around. He's talking about working with people at Lucasfilm, and he's like, you have to act like you have the strongest hand, and you have to bluff based on nothing but a gut feeling. And the thing, it's like, I can feel him being this dude on set that's like being told by maybe ambassadors of the brand and shit, you know, this is what we should probably do here. This is what we normally do. This is what we've been doing for 40 years. And Ryan's like, nah, I'm pretty sure we should do it this way. You know what I mean? And like, it's, you know, you feel that kind of conflict.
But saying that, but then that's what the whatchamacallit guys were doing. 21 Jump Street guys were doing, right? Because that's what they did with Solo, and
well, I think
then apparently no one saw it, and then Catholic, you know. So it's a whole thing where it's just like it's
weird. It's weird.
Why did they trust Ryan Johnson so much, and then they didn't trust those guys so much?
Well, you know, I think honestly, it's such a weird thing because I think that have you guys ever seen Red Letter Media's videos about The Last Jedi and just in general in Star Wars?
Not recently, but
so there was this one really crazy moment in a Red Letter Media breakdown of The Last Jedi where they kind of explain that like before The Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson is literally just some dude. Like, yeah, Looper was cool.
And the two and Ozymandias in Breaking Bad, right? He directed really cool episodes in Breaking Bad.
He directed a really cool episode of Breaking Bad. He directed Brick,
which were also showrun by. I've never seen Brick. I've seen Looper. I've seen.
That is interesting because I remember when before The Last Jedi came out, like right when he got hired on as director, people were actually excited for the guy to see what he's got.
Oh my god, dude! I was telling people about. I might have even told you about this, Trev. I have a video on the channel when I was at Celebration in Orlando. I think at this point, I think it was like 4 years ago. I have a video on the channel literally titled "Ryan Johnson is the next George Lucas," and I got on camera and I literally explained. I was like, "This dude's brilliant. He totally fucking knows Star Wars. He's gonna blow us all away." To the point where when what's his nuts was fired from 9, I was like, "Give it to Ryan." I was like, you gotta give it to Ryan. You know what I mean?
And saying that was a lot of people were saying that, but like,
a lot of people were,
but a lot of people were saying that. It's how it, because again, they were saying he had no problems. It was such a good working environment. Everybody wants to come back and work again with him, and then it's just it was so poorly received. Well, the mixed reviews and poorly received on the back end of it gives us hindsight of 2020. That's it. Well,
2020. Yeah. But
you know what I mean?
Mark Hamill did try to warn us because he was the only one.
You know what? And I just want to say this too because you know we can obviously get back to Dave Filoni, but I will say this to everybody that's like, oh my god, do we have to continue to talk about The Last Jedi? Every time you get sick of talking about The Last Jedi, you have to blame Ryan Johnson because he made the movie specifically so that we would never fucking stop talking about it. That was his whole plan. I promise you. So every single time we start talking about it and you're like, oh, I'm sick of hearing about this, don't blame us. Blame Ryan.
Not our fault.
Yeah, it's not our fault. But going back to Dave for just a little bit. Yeah, so let's talk about this. So we all kind of feel like he can do creative. We kind of feel like he's already doing creative. I'll say this. I was actually disappointed with his 2 live-action episodes in Season 1. Let me get you guys' thoughts about that. What did you think of his live-action directorial debuts? I'll remind you, he did Episode 1, and then he did Episode 5.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 1 was shorter than, like, we all thought, because I think going in, we all thought it was going to be, like, 40-minute episodes, right?
Yes.
Like it would be an hour on regular TV.
Oh my god,
like
I was
40 minutes.
Yeah, I was hoping for an hour. Yeah, for sure.
And it what was the first episode was like 28 minutes or 30 minutes or something
No,
like
it's
that, right?
like 24 minutes, dude.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
and so like I think I think we were all kind of let down by I should do a rewatch actually maybe of the first 3 episodes again. I haven't watched them since they probably came out, but like because let's see how they all go together. But yeah, like the first episode probably it there was too much left on the cutting room floor there. Like he probably could have had another 10 minutes of something, like a little bit more exposition, a little bit more something. He tried to it harkened back to a lot of like Rebels and Clone Wars, and he's just trying to pull it off in live action, right? Like a lot of the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt anyway. My first impression of it.
Yeah,
It was just like he was doing similar visual cues and like shots, like the way a director would set up a shot, like for the animation in live action. And maybe it didn't work necessarily as well in live action. But some things did, some things didn't, right? It just wasn't. And when I said earlier, like he's not terrible. It wasn't a terrible episode. It was just probably like a mediocre episode, like a 5, like a 5 out of 10, something like that. And it's not terrible. I just think we were everyone going into Mandalorian thought there was going to be longer episodes and everything else. So I think we're all kind of let down by that too, on top of everything, right? So, But go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, what you
think? I mean, for me, I think he just makes for a better actor. That's just me.
He was not bad in that one episode, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Isn't he the voice? Isn't he the voice of Chopper? He's the voice of Chopper.
Well,
right?
Yeah, he's the voice of Chopper, but I like that end episode. I think it was.
He was a pilot too.
Yeah, in 6, he was pilot, and he was actually not bad. Yeah. That's actually 3 of the directors. That's Deborah Chow, that's Rick, and Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, the only one's not Taika, because Taika's the
droid.
IG. Yeah, so they were already like, get out of here, Taika. You can't be a fucking pilot too. Get out of here. But
right.
Yeah. No, I
mean,
do you have any like specific thoughts about his like directing style or anything, or was it just kind of like?
And episode 5 was the one that set up potentially Boba Fett at the end, right?
Correct.
Potentially,
it's got Telatan or whatever,
and Ming-Na Wen and the babysitter.
Oh, you misunderstand, Josh. The way I answered it was to be very nice. I was hoping you were going to say.
Oh my God, Dan's getting kicked off the stream, everybody. No, so I'll just say that like I was let down because obviously like I'm a big fan of his. I was like really hoping that if we saw something really special, because I'm under the impression that what he does in animation with that is not easy. Like it's not like I don't take any of that for granted. Like it's really, really good stuff. You look at some of the best episodes of Clone Wars or some of the best episodes of Rebels, and you're just like, God damn, like dude.
But you're talking about the best episodes.
Correct.
There's also all the other ones. Like there's high heights in Clone Wars, high heights in Rebels.
Yeah.
There's also not great episodes.
Yeah,
that also
for
he's
sure.
responsible for.
I used to love, dude. I used to love Rebels so much that when episodes would come out and I could just feel like it was like a filler or whatever, like it would totally deflate me. It would just take the winds out of my sails, and I'm like, okay, here we go. You know what I mean?
Or remember the episodes of Clone Wars? What was it in season 5 where it was like all the droids and that general that was like a toad?
I was literally just gonna say that. Yeah, there's episodes like that with just all the fucking droids.
That was like a 5-episode arc,
dude. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I know. I mean, a swing and a miss, Dave. You know what I mean? Like he's like, going for it.
And so he's also responsible for that. Like it's like he's responsible for Vader versus Ahsoka.
Yeah.
He's responsible for Maul versus Ahsoka.
Yeah, and
he's responsible
Maul
for
the
like
Emperor, dude.
He's responsible for a lot of good things as well.
Yeah,
as the
but
bad
like it's just like it's so like, and obviously like it's a collaborative, but it is a collaborative thing. But he in those particular shows, he has final say on a lot of the stuff like in Rebels and Clone Wars that goes into that.
Yeah.
Like he probably didn't have final say on Mandalorian because that's Favreau's thing. But like,
yeah, no, he probably didn't. I would say that I was actually I was okay with his directing of the actors. I felt like that was surprisingly strong in his live action.
I saw Exar Kuno stuff. We also got Gregor out of it. Gregor is great. Gregor is the clone Gregor. Fantastic. But keep going.
I don't remember Gregor. Who's Gregor?
Gregor's the psycho clone, the clone that like forgot he had amnesia in that same 5-episode arc when they were like he had amnesia and he was like a Yeah, and he sets off the whole everything off at the end kind of thing, and
Yeah.
rescues the droids and everything else, and
Yeah,
so,
Gregor's a real one, that's for sure.
yeah.
But I felt like you know what I really didn't like about Dave's episodes was the editing, surprisingly. Like the pacing and editing just felt weird. And I wonder if that's an animation thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm wondering if cuz in live action I just feel like you need to let certain shots breathe.
I was gonna say, let moments breathe, right?
Yeah, and he didn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just too much, and like especially the first episode, it really feels like event after event. What's surprising though is how good the acting and the characters feel really good, but the overall pacing just didn't nail it. Like when you look at Chow's stuff, you're like, this is a master at work. You know what I mean? Like you can just
But
feel.
do you ever go back and watch like A New Hope? Go back and watch A New Hope and say like the beginning of it. Do you enjoy the pacing of the beginning of A New Hope? Like it's a fantastic movie. It's a great movie, but all the stuff on Tatooine is like real slow.
It's real slow.
Like, and it's like, and there's great scene moments and everything in it, but it's just like, and that's obviously George Lucas doing that. But I'm wondering if like the way because it happens in Rebels and Clone Wars too, is that Star Wars and pacing and like science fiction, the way they do science fiction is really this slow burn pacing, like where they're just kind of like it's always like, and I'm just like it's like and obviously the high heights that I was talking about, that you're talking about, and everything else are faster and everything else, but there's always these slow beats too that happen that maybe are setting us up for the higher heights, right? But but go ahead.
No. I mean, I totally feel you on that. You know, speaking on the pacing of A New Hope, I mean, like I've watched it fairly recently, and I actually feel like it's fairly well paced. It's almost like a rock crazy beginning with Vader and Leia, and like it's so hard to watch those movies out of context. It's like you can never watch it like not knowing who Vader and Leia is, right? It sort of suffers from that iconic aspect to it. But like you kind of rock through that, and then I feel like the pacing on Tatooine is pretty clean. I feel like there are a lot of moments that breathe, and then honestly, the Uncle Owen stuff it's almost like out of nowhere how fast that happens. Like I remember watching,
where they're both dead and everything.
Yeah,
and,
well,
like
you're hanging out with, you're hanging out with Ben Kenobi and Luke and shit, and then like all of a sudden they're like they're looking at the tracks, they're looking at the Jawas that just got obliterated, and then the next thing you know, Luke's like, Uncle, and boom, I got to get back to that. And then boom, he just like takes off. And then the next thing you know, you're there and they're dead. And then you're just like, oh, my God.
It's what allows Luke to leave Tatooine.
Right.
It gives him no ties back. Start that hero's journey.
Yep. So I don't know. I don't really mind the pacing in it.
But yeah, well, to me, the pacing is a little slow. Like, especially like in I've always felt that way. Like, again, you can feel however you feel. Like, and it does. I just the stuff on Tatooine for me is slow. So. And then from after, like, starting with the parents dying, though, like, or not the parents, but Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen dying, like that, it starts to go really fast after that. But like, it's just to get to that point is like it's like 25 minutes or however long it is, where it's just like it's slow to me. But
I would say it's definitely slower than quicker for sure. I want to address a couple of things in the chat because some people have some interesting stuff to say. Jacob's Quest says, remember that he did not direct all the episodes of Rebels or Clone Wars. That's a fair point. He was still acting as showrunner, but I do see your point there. I think that's fair. And also, Justin has some interesting things talking about collaborating with the expanded universe writers, or people that help create the expanded universe. What do you think about that?
That is something that I think should happen, and why hasn't it happened already?
Well, it
the
kind of
has. The current writers or the old writers?
You talking High Republic, bro? You talking High Republic? But I think that what Justin's getting at is it kind of did happen. Zahn was approached by Dave, You know what I mean? And so Thrawn being in canon now is
In
directly
Rebels.
linked to Dave Filoni. And so, you know, it is very possible that that Dave would open those doors again and bring in some more of those people. I think that's kind of what he's hinting at.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, for sure.
Well, he
I've
said
even
some of the
heard that.
old EU writers. He's got some of the old EU writers there too, like Michael Stackpole. Let's
Mm-hmm.
get some X-wing squadron in.
Yeah, dude. X-Wing
Or
Squadron
the
is sick.
Good.
Didn't Paul
Yes.
Kemp do the Lords of the Sith novel?
uh, I don't remember what Paul Kemp wrote, but he's got Carpathian here,
Mm-hmm.
Lucino,
Yep. Yep.
Zahn, Paul Kemp, yeah.
Yeah, those are some of the.
Kevin J. Anderson, Tom Veitch wrote Dark Empire. So like it's those are the really like Kevin J. Anderson, Tom Veitch, and like Timothy Zahn are the guys that started the whole expanded universe and Stackpole.
Yeah. Well, I think that
But
the big divide between fans was like, so Dark Empire and Zahn's Heir to the Empire were kind of happening at the same time. And basically, like, most of the EU kind of
yeah,
made a decision to go with Zahn's stuff rather than Dark Empire. So, although Dark Empire is technically um, EU, it's mostly ignored in what most of the hardcore EU fans call the EU. So, like, Zahn sort of
Oh,
sets it up, I guess.
okay.
well, it's Heir to the Empire came out in '91. I think Dark Empire started coming out in '90. The same as the second book. Dark Forces Rising came out in '92, and then I can't think of what's the name of the third one again. Heir to the Empire, Dark Forces Rising, Last Command.
Yes.
Last Command is the is came out in '93, right? So like it's a book a year by Zahn, and Dark Empire came out around those like in between all those in between the two and the third, second and the third novel coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think Dave could certainly be a little bit more open to that than Kathy. I mean, like, look, here's the deal. Like, I don't know how much of this is actually on Kathy or how much of this is on Lucas. Which, by the way, can I just say something? I need to get something off my chest.
What's up?
So, back in the day, guys, and by the way, you guys know me. Like, I'm not bullshitting. Like, this actually happened, and I never really like went at anybody or like really said much about it. But there was a moment in time where I had made a video speculating that potentially one of the reasons that Lucasfilm and Disney was going away from old George Lucas stuff and putting the emphasis on their own stuff was because of licensing. And I was basically implying that, like, if it's up to Disney and they could grab an old X-Wing or an old character that was created through Lucas's stuff, or they could put in freaking Admiral Holdo or something, that Disney would rather do Admiral Holdo. And this was potentially one of the reasons. It was just speculation. It was based on nothing that I had heard. It was just speculation. Literally a few days later, I see that narrative start to spin out from some of the Fandom Menace folks. And literally, I had never heard anybody address it. I had never heard anybody say anything about it. And then all of a sudden, it was this spun out idea where they were talking about how they had sources claiming that somebody had reached out to them and said that Disney is focusing on their own stuff because if they do anything for George, they have to pay him a little bit of extra money. And I watched that whole thing go down, and I didn't say shit about it, but like, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I remember that like a year and a half ago or something.
Yeah,
Like a year, 2
dude,
years ago maybe.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you. I saw it all go down, and I was like, man.
Wow.
Like,
I don't think George Lucas sold it 100%, right? He sold all of his interest in Disney, all his interest in Lucasfilm, 100% to Disney for the 4.1 billion or whatever, right, in 2012. Right. So I don't imagine he has any, like, I don't think he has any, like, maybe Disney wants to push their own characters just because they want to push them. Like,
I mean, like, you know,
this is our contribution to Star Wars, not George's contribution to Star Wars.
I know that he gets. I know that he still gets points though, and I know that he still has. So like his deal is intense and interesting.
Well, he only got how much? Like most of the 4.1 billion was in Disney stock, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
So,
but he's got a lot of back end stuff, and something that not a lot of other people talk about is the fact
There's
that
all crazy business deals.
yeah, it's crazy stuff. But like also, Lucasfilm was not making nearly the money that people think it was before the Disney purchase. And in fact, Clone Wars. Have I told you guys about this? How George massively overspent on Clone Wars?
I believe it.
Yeah, he massively overspent on it, which is probably why this new season is only 12 episodes and really it's only 4 episodes.
And maybe that's why he theatrically released those 4 episodes in the first place of it, because they were already done, and maybe he probably needed some infusion of cash. Maybe that's why he theatrically released them.
Yeah, well, that's honestly though, it's kind of an interesting, deeper kind of thing because it's also part of the reason why Disney needed to push out Force Awakens so quickly because they were looking at the books and they were like, "Uh-oh."
For sure.
Yeah, we interrupt.
But what back end stuff would he have? Like just the toy, like because he kept the merchandising.
Yeah, merch and
with and the merch has been doing terrible, right?
The merch has
Generally,
not been doing well. But think about it. Like under my original rationale, it would be actually that he had what's called grandfathered level royalties on things. So the older the stuff, the more closely associated to his actual like productions, the more he would get money off of them.
He gets a bigger chunk of that.
But that was all speculation. Like I was just speculating about that, and then some people kind of ran with it. But yo, give me like 2 seconds. I'm gonna bring Stormbreaker in, and then I will be right back. Don't burn the whole channel down while I'm gone. I'll be right back. Everybody, ask.
How you doing, Storm?
Good. You guys?
Good, man.
Oh man, just chopping it up, you know.
Just chopping it up. But yeah, like, are you guys excited for like episode for Dave, because Dave Filoni's gonna be doing Mandalorian season 2? I imagine he's probably directing episodes there too. And it's like you said, Dan, are you like you didn't like how like he directed like those episodes in Mandalorian season 2? How do you feel he would do with like how excited are you? Because like how Josh released those episode titles the other day there, or they came out the episode titles. Which episodes do you think he's directing, and how do you think he's gonna? Do you think he's gonna do better this season?
I think he. Well, you know, I look at it like this: the first episode that he did in The Mandalorian were basically like test footage. You know, like he was testing the waters and he was doing his thing. So So I think he's definitely more capable of learning from, what didn't work and making it better in season 2. I'll give him that.
He should have learned from some faults he might in the first season.
Now's your chance to see his power. I'm just reading Jacob. Now's your chance to see his power. It's ours.
God, don't it.
I think he's gonna do. I think he's. Like you said, I think he's learned. I think he's going to do better. Like I said, if he's going to get this Ahsoka show, he really needs to show people that he can do this shit, and he can do it at like 7 out of 10 and better consistently. Because go ahead.
I heard that The Mandalorian was basically a whole test thing, so he could get his Ahsoka show off the ground.
And that could be it, right? Because he wants to tell. Like I said, he probably has a timeline for everything in Star Wars that we haven't seen,
sure.
And he wants to tell these stories, right? So, like you said, like you're probably right. Like it's probably like because he needs to show us. He needs to show us something that he's more than capable of doing this stuff.
I mean,
start losing the faith of the fans because of this,
Yeah.
It's also a smart idea bringing Ahsoka into the Mandalorian season 2, so you can hype people up for our own series, because not everyone watches the animated shows.
True.
So you think he's probably 100% directing that Sorcerer episode?
I don't know.
And probably.
Yeah.
If the Sorcerer one is about Ahsoka,
right? Exactly.
He's probably directing that one.
Yeah.
And he's probably directing one more on top of that.
Yeah,
are they bringing back the same directors or different directors?
Different directors. Certain ones could not come back. Certain ones could. I know Robert Rodriguez is confirmed to be one of them. I love Rodriguez too. I'm actually a big fan.
And Ron Howard's daughter did one of the episodes too, right?
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard. She did one that I didn't really like hers though. I forget which one it was. I think it might have been.
I think it was the episode with the AT-AT and the red eyes, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that episode's
and
not
those-
terrible.
Gina, she created the wrestler girl's character, if I'm not mistaken.
Cara Dune.
Cara Dune's dope, dude. That's a cool.
Yeah.
That's a
Just got
cool character.
yeah.
Is she? I want to be surprised if she is going to be in that female lead spinoff, because there was already talk about other Mandalorian characters getting their own spinoff show in the first place.
Right.
So
Yeah, I would agree with you, Trev, that whatever episode Ahsoka comes in on, like there's just no way that Dave's not doing that. You know what I mean? Like there's just no way that he would let someone else do that episode.
Remember, we're also probably going to we might also get Katie Sackhoff, right?
Yes, I believe we will be getting her. I'm not sure what
Like,
character, though.
has she been? I don't know if she's officially been announced, but she's the voice of Bo-Katan, and she's got enough acting chops where she could easily play Bo-Katan. Like, she's not.
Yeah.
Like, so it's. Speaking of that,
So-
like on those last episodes of Clone Wars, see how they styled the one Mandalorian. I don't know if she was styled the same way in
They
earlier
even
seasons of
called
Clone
her
Wars with the
something
Death Watch.
Ren. Didn't they call her Ren?
Well, it's Sabine's mom.
That's what I'm
But
saying. Yeah,
she's
that's
styled the exact, like the hairstyles, the
Mhm.
exact same kind of way as Sabine and everything else. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty
Wow.
cool. So are they implying that Gar Saxon is her father, or is Gar just also a part of that guard or whatever?
Gar Saxon was part of Death Watch, right? So
Right.
he was part of Death Watch, and then I guess Maul recruited him when Maul took over. Maul recruited him, but yeah, because Gar
Mhm.
Saxon gets killed by Sabine, right, in season 3, I think the end of season 3 of Rebels. Yeah, he gets killed by him. Ray Stevenson's character.
Are we sure?
Yeah, he's dead. He's dead at the end of season 3.
I don't.
Like might be before the season finale.
Well, yeah, but
I'm
it's not her that kills him. She fights him to a standstill, and I think it's her mom that kills him technically.
because he gets electrocuted or something, right?
He gets
by
like
that.
blasted. Like she fights him to a standstill, or maybe yeah. I'll have to rewatch that. I'm kind of blanking on that. But
yeah, we were just talking about season 2 of The Mandalorian and maybe what episodes Dave was directing and like.
yeah.
So, like,
No. I dig it. I think you're right. Whatever that, if those end up being true, then yeah, the sorcerer one would definitely be the best bet. For Ahsoka coming on in there. Yeah, it should be pretty sick, man. Mando, I mean, let me ask you guys this. Where do you want Mandalorian to go after season 3? Because I think season 2 will be very similar to season 1. But would you be okay with it? Because right now it's kind of like Lone Wolf and Cub on mostly desert backwater planets. It's very smuggler, cowboy, shoot 'em up kind of thing. Would you ever want it to grow into something else? Because I'm thinking of like when I first heard Mandalorian as a show concept, I was thinking Game of Thrones on the planet of Mandalore with different feudal houses, different people fighting for power and shit like that. Would that be too much?
Well, the vibe I got from, and this was way before Baby Yoda, but it was one of the trailers. The vibe I was getting from it was, dude, we're gonna get GTA Star Wars. So I'm thinking, and he kind of already has his own little crew. So I think that's where season 3 could go for real. Just out there fucking shit up in space without Baby Yoda. I don't think Baby Yoda's gonna make it to season 3. He's not gonna die, but I don't think.
But he's gonna be kind of set somewhere else or something. Yeah. What do you think, Stormbreaker?
He's gonna be returned to his mother, Yaddle, of course. Yes.
Well, I just. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Trev, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I just want more of like the Mandalorians in the show. I mean, the first season only had like 1 episode that they really had a lot of Mandalorians.
Yeah, episode 3, which was sick.
Yeah, that last scene was super dope.
Yeah, man.
The Mandalorians that they should bring back, they need the big guy. You know, this is the way. I need him, and I need the axe lady. She should come back too.
And they should bring back what's his name, also from Rebels, who's Ray Stevenson's buddy from. Remember the TV show Rome? How Ray Stevenson and the other guy were together.
Oh yeah.
Like because they were right? Whatever his name was, but he was the actor that played the other Mandalorian on the Rebels side in Rebels. That like Bao.
Yes.
Like, so he was in but they should be bringing him in. He was in that show, The Journeyman 2 or whatever. He was.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that show, Journeyman, but yeah, like he was a lead, I think it's something McKidd or something, right? He's like a Scottish actor. But they should be bringing him to play that Mandalorian, maybe, because he was also, I think, a part of Death Watch, and he's still alive, and that would be. I'm pretty sure he's still alive anyway, off the top of my head.
So
I can't remember him dying.
So
but yeah.
we covered it on Sunday or whatever. Giancarlo Esposito's talking about how he broke 3 different Darksabers and he's going ham with the combat. So like, who's he fighting? Because it can't be Ahsoka, right?
It has to be, because can't nobody else fight with the lightsaber.
Yeah, but Ahsoka would murder.
Ahsoka
would just let him.
Yeah, like unless he's force sensitive, which he could be force sensitive. We don't know for sure, but like, unless he's force sensitive.
I thought that, from my understanding, the Darksaber grants its wielder like these force-like powers. Like, it enhances their abilities, doesn't it?
No, not so much. I mean, the one thing that
it's a ceremonial blade that makes you the leader of Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's also functional though. It's also functional in combat. But the thing was, if you watch the episode where Sabine trains with it, the only thing that happens is like, it's almost like attunement, where the more she trained with it, the lighter it became. So, a lot of people have this concept that like lightsabers are really light and stuff, but the blades are actually heavy, and the crystal itself is like sentient, almost like a wand in Harry Potter. So the more she became like comfortable with it, the more that
attuned to the crystal,
right?
Attuned to the crystal,
but it's not
and the
so
vibrations and everything.
Yeah,
else.
But it's not going to give her force abilities. And so no, like Esposito or like Moff Gideon wouldn't get any like buffs with it. And dude, Ahsoka would make quick work of him, like almost without a saber. Like I would say, literally weaponless, she could beat him in hand-to-hand combat with that. So
I would be saying he's fighting. I'd be saying he's fighting the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
like he's fighting Din Djarin. He's probably fighting Din Djarin over the saber, and maybe Din Djarin has something. Ahsoka gives him one of her sabers or something like that, right? Because she carries 2. Like they're in the middle
if I get to see Din Djarin using a lightsaber, holy shit!
Like that would be my guess. That would be my guess. So that's probably what it'll be. It'll probably be something like that.
Toy, man. I'm gonna need that.
Black Series, she's off doing something else. And maybe he's using the same things that Sabine used. Like he's got maybe the rope, whatever that little lasso thing she had. Yeah, and like the everything else to do. Like, and and they're fighting over the Darksaber itself.
I'd love it, dude.
But when people bring up the name Dave Filoni, I mean, people always have it about the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, but we don't have to forget that Dave Filoni is also responsible for, in my opinion, the best American-produced animated show of the last 20 years, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
I'm watching that right now.
Yeah.
I'm on book 3.
Yeah. I mean, he's a deeply, like, he's into like that Joseph Campbell stuff and like that mythology stuff, and like, yeah, like you can see, journey. Yeah, dude, you can see a lot of Star Wars in The Last Airbender. Like, there's a lot of great stuff, in that show for sure.
Yeah. Well, there's the hero's journey in almost every single. It's Peter Parker's journey. It's Harry Potter's journey. It's Luke Skywalker's journey. It's Batman's journey. Like it's almost Superman's journey. Like all of our major characters are doing the monomyth of the hero's journey or whatever. There, right? It's like all through mythology. Everybody does it. So
except Rey.
Except Rey. Well, Rey does it too. It's just she never has a real setback. Technically, against, well, she does a bit, I guess, but she never suffers the way other characters suffer. And I think part of that is because I think Disney didn't want to show. They don't want to show. I don't know if they want to show like women being beat up and bloody and battered. I don't know. Like I don't know if that a lot of like that. Like that's like I don't want to show that for like a thing aimed at kids. Whereas at the same time, they're willing to show like Peter Parker that way. They're willing to show Luke Skywalker that way. They're willing to show Harry Potter that way. That's not Disney, but that's
Well,
like
you know
WB.
what's so
but, like,
ironic?
you know what I mean? Like where they're willing to show.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it's just ironic because like one of the stories, like the story of Cinderella is literally the story of why you don't treat people with kid gloves, right? So like Cinderella, the whole idea of the story is that there's this prophecy that she'll prick this object and go into a coma. And so like her parents, I guess, which in this case would be
That's not Cinderella. That's Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty, yeah. So the whole idea of Sleeping Beauty, as I said, Trev, was that she's gonna get pricked by this thing and go into a coma, and so her parents, what they decide to do is remove all of the sharp objects from her life. But then it's like what it creates is a stupid person, because then for the first time in her life when she sees a sharp object, she touches it. So it's like the idea of Sleeping Beauty is let people struggle so that they're strong. Don't stop them from struggling so that they're weak. You know what I mean?
But again, so did we see Ray struggle really, like kind of thing? We
Not
saw
really,
it like against Snoke maybe a bit, against Snoke, and that's the whole thing, right? Where in all of our other, and that's another reason why people are like, we're getting sidetracked with Last Jedi bullshit and like sequel trilogy bullshit, but like it's just like it's all part of it, but like it's just that's why that it doesn't go over as well, because we're not seeing the struggle. They're not earning their place.
There's not that moment where you're like, are they gonna make it out? Is this character gonna triumph? You know, and that's like such an important formula. Even the Avengers, it's like, dude, think about it. Like Endgame and Infinity War. Like, first of all, Infinity War, they fucking lose. But like even in Endgame or in any of those great movies, there's that moment where you're like, how are they gonna get out of this? Which is like a big Stan Lee thing. You know, he was like, that's one of the most important things. Is like, in the back of your mind, you know, they're the heroes, so they're going to win. But you should be looking at it like, how on earth are they going to win? You know, that's what
you have to show them struggling. You have to show them struggling to win. That's what makes a good story.
That's what makes
struggle.
Otherwise,
what are we watching? Like, why are we watching this? If the person's just gonna, like, it's like someone playing God mode in like some kind of game, right? Like, it's just like, why am I watching this? That's not. Is it worth it to watch this?
Yeah, no.
Let's speed run Star Wars.
Right. Let's speed run Star Wars, dude. You know what? I want to go off on a totally crazy tangent. I want to talk about a show I just started watching. Oh, actually, I burned through it on Netflix. That's actually created by one of the guys that created Avatar: The Last Airbender. Have you guys ever heard of The Dragon Prince?
I'm gonna get into it after this marathon.
Dude, I love that show.
What is it about?
So it essentially takes place in a world in which humans started doing dark magic a long time ago, and they got like kicked the F out of the magical place, where basically they were like, yo, humans, you all kind of suck, get out of here. And so then
I got Last Dance paused on my Netflix right now, but keep going.
So like there is kicked out.
The Michael Jordan documentary.
Oh snap! His comments today about the walk-off were pretty crazy. But so there's basically like humans are on this one side, elves and all the other magical creatures are over here. Then there's a dragon in the middle, and there's all the pieces created because there's a dragon. Well, the humans kill the dragon king and destroy the egg, except they don't destroy it. They actually just take the egg. And so like basically now there's going to be war between the humans and the elves, and the human princes end up taking the dragon egg with an elf, and they're trying to take it to where the dragon is at as like a sign of good faith to stop the war. But man, like it's sort of childish. It's like definitely for kids, but the mythology in it, I'm like absolutely in love with. I think the show's fantastic.
It has some some Witcher vibes over it or something like that.
The high
fantasy.
It
has three seasons already.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, dude, it like is blowing up to the point where like they're making books and stuff now. And honestly, it's like a little hidden gem because like I just really love the characters. Like I love the characters, and the high fantasy elements like do it for me. Like there's this human that finds this mirror, and then there's this figure in the mirror that he can see, and he starts like doing what the figure in the mirror wants, and he has no idea who this figure is. The mirror was in the lair of the Dragon King. It was like one of his most prized possessions, and that's all he knows about it. And this thing starts, like, this other character, like, starts manipulating him, but he, like, doesn't lie. Like, he's never told a lie. And the showrunners came out and said, like, no, yeah, that's true. He's literally never lied. And it's like, what is the deal? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just really good storytelling, really good mythic storytelling, hero's journey to its finest. I really like it.
The animation style resembles another show, but I can't come up with a name at this point.
Resistance. The Resistance.
It is a little like Resistance, honestly. But the second season gets so much better. Well, they did a really weird frame rate in the first season that makes it really clanky. If you can get past the first season, it's much better in the second. And then one more thing I'll throw at you just because we're doing ADD random Josh throws stuff out time.
Sounds good to me.
Great anime that I just started watching called Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon? Have you ever heard of this anime?
No.
Is that for real, the name?
It's for real. And I'll say this. If you're not a big fan of anime titties, it might not be for you. But if you mildly like anime titties and you also like high fantasy and crazy shit, it's awesome, dude. It is awesome.
It's getting really lonely in Pittsburgh. Eh?
Yeah, hey, it is quarantine-induced anime titty show watching. You got your Dragon Prince, you know, when you want to feel like a respectable, family person, and then, you know, everybody's in bed. Now you can turn on your Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon? It's actually really funny. It's a really clever show. I like it a lot.
So this stream is getting demonetized?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's over, man. Den of canceled, Jacob's Quest says. Oh no. I'm canceled. Yeah, that'll pop up. Can I please put a link in? Well, I would totally put a link in, Tony, but we're about to get off here, my brother. I apologize, but we'll get you on the next one, man. We'll get you on the next one. Oh, man.
This has been very enlightening. Thank you for that new anime. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll check out that Dragon Prince. It looks pretty.
Yeah,
dope.
man. Honestly, like, let me know what you think. I was shocked. At first, I had it on as background stuff, and then by the time like I got into the second season, like I wasn't even on my phone. Like I'm just straight hooked.
Yeah.
Hooked in. Yeah. So it was really, really good. But yeah, gentlemen, we're gonna call it there. We'll call it there with the anime titties. Thank you guys for being here, of course. Talking Dave Filoni. I'm glad everybody's in agreement, especially Dan, that Dave is not overrated and should totally be in charge of everything. That was really nice of you to agree with me with that.
Absolutely.
All right, my friends. I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys soon, and we will be doing another community stream next Saturday because next week will be the first week in the new month, so we'll be bumping it to Saturday. So hope to see you all there. I'll post a link, and you can jump on into the chat next time. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.